Hey, check this out. This is awesome! But what the heck even is this? This is Gyro Aim. It allows you to control the camera by moving your wrists in conjunction with the analog stick. Just firmly hold your controller and then use the analog sticks to get close to your target and use the motion sensors to do the rest of the tracking and the target switching. Super easy. In the past, this feature sucked major ass. For some reason, developers insisted on emulating an analog stick instead of a mouse, which is harder to program, by the way. It doesn't make much sense. The right way is to just use raw input or to simply emulate a mouse. This goes to show just how similar mouse aim and gyro aim really are. They allow you to aim much faster and more precisely than sticks, because they follow your physical movements just like a mouse. This is especially useful to exploit enemy weak points. My friend even showed me a technique with the magic archer. You can lock onto enemies and quickly flick the camera upwards or sideways while releasing your arrows, thus changing the trajectory and allowing you to hit enemies undercover. Or you can hit enemies while you are undercover. Capcom games have been adding gyro aim as an option since 2020, but the implementation was always quite bad. I think this is the first time that they actually got it right. But you wanna know something funny? When Resident Evil 4 Remake released, I made an angry video complaining about the gyro aim implementation on that game. And apparently, they listened to me? Like, I didn't receive any directly response from Capcom, but every problem that I talked about in that video is solved on Dragon's Dogma 2, so maybe they did. Like, how good is it? Are there any problems remaining? Well, absolutely, but it's really not that bad. So what do we have here? Well, first things first, gyro aim is active by default, so if you ever try to throw a barrel or use a bow and arrow, you already experience this feature firsthand. I haven't seen many people talking about this feature, but that's actually a good thing because it means it didn't bother them enough to bitch about it. Though I fear that many people will immediately turn off this feature because of its biggest flaw. In my Resident Evil 4 Remake video, I said this. But why is there so much smoothing and filtering in Resident Evil 4 Remake? Motion controls are supposed to work like a mouse. And that's why I think they saw that video, because they took that seriously. Because look what happens if I use gyro while vibrations are enabled. I'm not moving my controller, I'm trying to keep as still as possible. So usually games would have just a little bit of smoothing to prevent controller vibrations from interfering with gyro. Or they would simply disable vibrations while gyro is active, like God of War Ragnarok. So if you want a good gyro experience, I really recommend disabling vibrations, which really sucks, by the way, because vibrations are the kind of features that I feel like most people would want on. What else? We can achieve very high sensitivities. That's really great. So with gyro, we have a thing called the natural sensitivity scale. Basically, it's a sensitivity slider that can be translated to every game. So if set to 1, 360 degrees in real life would translate to 360 degrees in game. So if I turn 90 degrees here, the character will also move 90 degrees. Like, I'm moving way too much of my arm. And that's the problem, actually. Because you want a high sensitivity to not have to do all of this, because this is just obnoxious. I play with 1 to 4, so 1 full rotation of the controller means 4 full rotations in game, which makes me do 90 degrees by moving like less than 45 degrees of the controller. It's incredible. But the thing is, most games cap the maximum gyro sensitivity at 2, which is way too low. But this game caps at like 7.5, which is pretty decent, especially for this kind of game. The only complaint that I have about the sensitivity slider is that they don't follow the same values as other games. So if I set it to 2, this won't actually mean 2 full rotations in game. This will be way lower. Actually, I think the default is like 2.5. So you can calculate the natural sensitivity scale, but the slider doesn't follow these values. Another thing I should mention is that gyro settings and analog stick settings don't mix. They are completely independent from one another. Which is crazy how many games got this wrong. Helldivers 2. Another great thing is that vertical and horizontal sensitivity sliders are separate. Though the vertical sensitivity is a little bit lower than the horizontal sensitivity, and they did that to increase stability. Now, if this video wasn't nerdy enough for you, get ready, because I saved the most nerdy thing for last. So, there's this thing called gyro orientation, and we have multiple modes like local space, world space, and player space. Basically, they change the way you need to move the controller. So, in local space yaw mode, you look sideways like this, up and down like this. In row mode, you hold the controller like upwards like this, and you move the controller like so. The thing is, if I'm looking in front of me, like just straight, and I move the controller like this, you see it doesn't cause the intended effect. The only way to move side to side while holding the controller like this is this way. So I thought that the game was using local space yaw mode, but when I hold the controller like this and I try to move it like so, it also works. So I don't know if this is actually local space or if it's world space, because world space and player space will automatically calculate the controller orientation, making this change possible. But it doesn't actually work in the way that I would usually see in other games, so I may be mistaken, but maybe this is world space. So, are you playing Dragon's Dogma 2 with gyro? Did you like it? Leave a comment down below. If you want to use this feature on PC, you will need a PlayStation controller, a USB connection, and play with Steam input disabled. Overall, I totally recommend Dragon's Dogma 2 gyro implementation. I hope Capcom listens to me again and fixes these minor issues. But for now, if you want more motion control games and tips, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.